Taurus 17, a battle between the swords and the torches. There's this expression, what we hold a torch for, it's what we yearn for. It's an expression of desire. And the sword is the sword of mind. So what we're studying with this degree is the essential duality in life. It's not just the mind and the heart. It's also the soul and the ego. It's also whether to adapt to what's happening or to change it so that you get what you want. This whole business of being in a world of duality is central to our very existence. Our whole life is defined by the fact that we can't actually have this and that simultaneously. So we find ourselves creating life choices every day between this and that. And when we look at the essential decision that we're making, we can find that it's one of these key polarities, the yang and the yin, the soul and the ego, good and evil, black and white. And literally, we make it up because things are not that way. There is no essential polarization in life itself. Life could go this way or that way. We can see life as basically an electrical field of potential energy. And each of those decisions that we make, these choices, they polarize the situation one way or another, towards the plus or towards the minus, electrically speaking. But this is all metaphor. Everything is metaphor anyway. Moment by moment, day by day, year by year, we're making choices of a trivial nature and of a major nature. And sometimes we make the same choice consistently. Whenever some particular situation arises, that's what we do every time. And sometimes we change according to our feelings of the moment. Maybe I will today, maybe I won't. And these two attitudes of being can be correlated to the masculine and the feminine principles. It generally is the case that the feminine principle, and so women, they tend to feel a situation before they make their choice about how to interpret it. And men seem to prefer the idea of choosing principles and practices. This is how I am, no matter what. I will fight my battles on this principle. Now, I don't want to overgeneralize and say men do this and women do that. It's just not true. But we do have to identify the difference between the masculine and the feminine attitude to life, and then try and find a balance within us to represent, or most authentically, whether we're a bit more yang in this situation, a bit more yin in that situation, or whether it does change with the tides and the weather. And these choices are not something we can have as options. We must make the choices. But choicelessness is pretty much the only option not available to us in a world of free will. We are free to do anything we want except avoid choice. So we're faced daily, moment by moment, with choices about how to respond to life and whether to initiate something. And this particular degree, Taurus 17, indicates in high relief what that does to us. It changes how we think and what we feel, how we feel. It changes our feelings. It changes our beliefs. What changes it? Well, the need for choice, the need for interpretation. We might think that we're choosing between coffee and tea or right and left on the road. Of course that's true. But we're also choosing between interpretation of somebody's behavior as good or bad, helpful or harmful, sincere or inauthentic. We choose that by our interpretation of what they're doing and our willingness to absorb differences between our way and their way in a harmonious way. And that process of accepting people, that's a heart-centered process. Those who have developed a deep and true heart, deep and true, so compassionate and authentic, those people with such a heart are much better able to withstand the differences that would jar and trouble others. They just accept what comes up, which does not accord with their hopes and expectations. Whereas people who are fearful and have closed their heart from feeling their way through life, they tend to be staunch in their attitudes and beliefs and principles, and they're hard-nosed businessmen types that get what they want, and they end up on the top of the pile and have got a string of successes behind them, and yet they don't know what happiness is, and they don't know what it feels like to just go with the flow quite as much. Whereas those people that do select this other option of just flowing along and accepting all that comes and believing that acceptance itself is the highest spiritual principle, well, they end up being stepped on and used and denied any sense of personal respect. People don't recognize them as powerful and so on. The yin power is not really often considered to be power at all. So it isn't okay to go to the extremes of one of these or the other as a way of life. Typically, it's not okay. One leads to high stress, the other also leads to stress potentially, but a low self-esteem and potential for depression more. So we do have to find the balance, and we have to find it moment by moment. And actually, it's not really okay to choose your standpoint in life and stick to your guns. That's not a successful strategy in a changing world. It might have worked in centuries long by when the changes in the world took place slowly, relatively. But today, change is very fast. And what is a working principle for a way of life in the 20s may not be in the 30s. And it may be time to change how you are in life, and to change that more and more quickly, to be more and more adaptable, more and more fluid, to respond to what's actually going on in the world as it presents itself, not as you thought it to be 10 years ago when you set out on a certain path. Now, the key secret here is to look more deeply beneath the apparent choice that you have. A choice comes up, and typically you'd make that decision. You'd want more business in your life, more work, so you had more money to afford better things, or you wanted more time in your life with your kids, so you had a more profound relationship with your family and a deeper sense of warmth and comfort, whichever is your preference. And yet, if we look deeper beneath the surface of all of our decisions, we find more to understand, more meaning in each of our choices. And this really is the secret of this degree. It's trying to find the meaning within each and every choice that we make. What does it mean that we prefer tea to coffee? Possibly nothing. It doesn't sound very trivial, very important. It sounds trivial. But when you kind of notice what happens when you've had a cup of coffee, you get supercharged and into your head more. When you have a cup of tea, you feel more relaxed. Perhaps, I don't know. But what if that is the case? Then the choice between tea and coffee is a choice between greater stress and greater relaxation. That might point to something deep within you, an obsession for success, an ambition which is based on anxiety. Maybe, who knows? If you choose this movie rather than that one, apparently a trivial choice, but maybe you've got unworked out issues to do with the storyline that you tend to go for. If you go for violent movies all the time, maybe you've got that to look at. If you go for soppy romantic dramas, maybe you've got that to look at. Maybe there's a secret there. And when we're of a certain higher level of consciousness, we tend to see that there is a secret there in everything. We seek and find the meaning hidden below the surface in every situation. And that ability to see more deeply, more clearly, that enables us to carry out a more profound ability at magic, really. We can create in the world what we choose to have happen because we can see more, we understand more. And sometimes we know that we can't actually have it the way we want it, and we move on more quickly. We don't get caught up in something that's bound to fail. So this ability to make choices, fair and deep, having considered the meaning of a situation, this enables us to ennoble the spirit. The spirit becomes a higher, authentic expression of soul consciousness.